Hello, kids. I hope everybody's doing super duper well. We are continuing our punctuation lessons. So last week we were focusing on just kind of our normal, like how do we fix run-ons, how do we fix comma splices, how do we fix fragments. Now this one is focusing on punctuation specifically. So yes, last time we introduced like semicolons and obviously reviewed periods. Now this one's going to talk about a few different things. So, in your guys' packet, you have where there is this slide about how we're going to use different punctuation marks. So you can see all the different punctuation marks. We have periods, brackets, marks, or quotation marks, semicolons, question marks, exclamation points, colons, hyphens, commas, dashes. So I know that seems like a whole lot. So that's why this is included in your guys' packet. So this tells you kind of what each punctuation mark does as a task. Okay, what is its specific role? So, like to end sentences, which is what terminate, and to separate things, we have our period, we have our exclamation mark, and we have our question marks. So, we know that these three things we're going to find at the end of a sentence. Okay, Miss Lloyd misses her students. We would have a period at the end of that. Oh my gosh, that would have an exclamation mark. When are we going to go back to school? Question mark. Okay, all those, you're not going to see those things in the middle of a sentence. They're always going to be at the end. Okay. Now, while this one is to end and separate, these are to combine and separate. So these you are going to find in the middle. Okay, so we have our commas. We have our semicolons, which we know semicolons do act as periods. They do end sentences, but the important thing to remember with a semicolon is it's connecting two sentences together. It's combining them, but yet still separating. Okay. You have colons, you have dashes, and you have hyphens. Okay. Now, if you look up here, you'll see that a dash and a hyphen look exactly the same, right? Now, the key thing is normally you will have where a hyphen we might not see as often. Okay, we'll see hyphens in like if your teacher has two last names or if you have two last names, you have where there would be a hyphen there. Okay, so if my mom decided to keep her maiden name, which is her name that she grew up with, and take my dad's name when they got married, she would be Mrs. Holmes hyphen Lloyd, which I think would have been an awesome name, but it's whatever. So we have where a hyphen, we're going to see connecting two words together because we're combining those two words, whereas a dash, there's a space between each of them. Okay. Now, we're going to see in your guys' warm-up that a comma, parenthesis, and dashes, actually, are the same thing. They function very similarly. Okay. But I'm rushing ahead. So we've got to combine and separate our commas, semicolons, colons, dashes, and hyphens. Okay. To introduce, we see these towards the start of sentences. We have the comma and dash again, and then we also have the colon. Okay. And we know that colons are used to introduce like lists. So if we're talking about all the things that we need to have on our NTI day, colon, computer, packet, pencil, headphones. We know that that's introducing it. And then to enclose, just meaning to like basically set this stuff aside. And this is where you're going to use like two of these, okay? Commas, dashes, parentheses, brackets, quotation marks. So you wouldn't just have one comma, you'd have two commas. With dashes, you're not going to have just one dash, you're going to have two dashes. Parentheses, both parentheses. Brackets, both brackets. Quotation marks, same thing. So these three, we know for sure all already have pairs, because if we look, like quotation marks, we have two of them. Brackets, we have two. Parentheses, we have two. So it makes sense that those are all about enclosing information. All right. So if we look, for example, Miss Lloyd's puppy is named Rose. Rose is a very delicate looking dog. So if I go, I want to be able to mark on it. Speaking of Rose, she's going to probably start crying in a minute because that's how she rolls. So, for example, Miss Lloyd's puppy is named Rose. Rose is a very delicate looking dog. So if we look here, we can see I put a semicolon because I wanted to combine and yet separate these two sentences, right? Because I have the sentence, Miss Lloyd's puppy is named Rose, and then I have the second sentence, Miss Rose is a very delicate looking dog. Now, if you guys look here, delicate looking, I wanted to combine. So what I used here is a hyphen, okay? So again, a hyphen is connecting two words. A dash would be, well, I'll show you where we could possibly use a dash later, okay? This next sentence, Chris, Tavares, and Jacob, well, we know that those are three different boys, okay? So we know that we need to separate those boys out. So we have Chris, Tavares, and Jacob want to start a field hockey team. Our sentence is done. There's no need. Field hockey does not need to be hyphenated because it is its own, stands alone. Okay. India was very disappointed with her grade. She was always an A honor roll student. Now, this is kind of what we learned last week, where these are two different sentences. So what I have here is a run-on sentence. So hopefully you remember how to fix our run-ons. If you don't remember, we can use a period. India was very disappointed with her grade. She was always an A honor roll student. We could use a semicolon, right? Because again, same thing. Or we could totally take that out and we could put we could replace a word in there. India was very disappointed with her grades since she was always an A honor roll student. Okay, so again, just like I stressed in the last video, you guys have different options of what you could do here. Now, I love semicolons, so I'm going to put a semicolon. Okay. She was always an A honor roll student. Now, this word is always tricky because typically when you do see, like in reference to honor roll, you don't usually see another hyphen here. Usually it's just exactly as it is. Google Slides, and they just don't like that. So we can actually leave that one alone. Okay. I mean, we could always see what Google suggests, but they don't even want us to fix the grammar. They want us to change. Oh yeah, that's actually, oopsies, Miss Lloyd's wrong. So this is what we would actually want. Miss Lloyd isn't paying attention to her slide. So we just needed to spell that word correctly. Okay. This has been a crazy week, said Christian. This sentence is already correct. Okay. This has been a crazy week. We see that we have our comma here. We have two quotation marks, and our comma is inside our quotation marks, because if you aren't already familiar, if you haven't noticed in books, when we have our quotations, we don't put quotation marks and then the comma. The comma always goes on the inside. Now, I'm sure there is a super technical reason as to why. Someone probably came up with a whole bunch of reasons. All I know is that these quotation marks are separating whatever is in between them from everything else, and that comma is separating whatever is being said from the action. So we have two different things that are separating. I'm not quite sure why the comma has to go on the inside. I just know that if we don't, it's wrong. Okay. It was a hot, windy day, but Ethan B. still spent the day outside. So we have where it was a hot, windy day. So we have two different adjectives describing day, and we need to separate them out. Okay, because it was hot and windy. It wasn't like hot, windy. All right. And then we know that but is one of those fanboys. So we need to put a comma by that to separate it out. Okay. Miss Lloyd is not very speedy when it comes to writing here. Okay. Yikes. Sorry, guys. This is not as fun as a whiteboard. We also have where Ethan J. was jealous that he wasn't able to go outside, but he was able to get ice cream. So this sentence is okay because, again, we have a comma and a but. So if we didn't have that, if we didn't have the but, then we would have a comma splice. If we didn't have the comma or the but, we'd have a run-on. But luckily, this sentence is already set. So we had two sentences I believe that we did not need to fix, and then the rest we did. Okay, and Mrs. Lloyd apparently threw in a spelling word in there too, so whoopsies. All right, now you guys have where, obviously that was practice. Now you guys do have a worksheet, but I also just want us to kind of scroll through. You guys read this last week about why punctuation matters. So we have where this is all about our punctuation stuff. Okay. Now, if I go to this is this is your assignment. This is our NTI assignment for you all. So we're focusing on commas, dashes, and parentheses. Last week we focused on comma splices, run-ons, and fragments, which are focused on our sentences. And now we're focusing on these things. Okay. So you didn't 100% have to do it by day. This was just kind of something that if you wanted some guidance, if you wanted to just do a little bit each day, that you could do that. Or if you're doing it all in one day, that's awesome too. So we have where the first part focuses on dashes. Okay. Now for each sentence, you're going to put the dashes where they need to go and explain why. We're not going to worry about the explaining why, because explaining why gets kind of crazy because we haven't talked all about all these fun rules, right? So if we look, you can think of the dash like the roar of a lion. It shows that something has a high level of contrast, and the dash is used to bring attention to the words set apart by the dashes. It can show a level of surprise or strong emphasis, such as the young boy, with arms as thin as sticks, hoisted the massive weight above his head. The contrast of the thin arm shows the surprise in being able to lift the heavy weight. So our dashes are lions' roars. Okay? This means that when you use a dash, it means that you are stressing something. So in my voice, you can hear like we use it to stress, to place emphasis. This is when you would use our dashes. Okay? So Joe's best friends. Now, if we really want to stress who Joe's best friends are, because maybe Joe's got lots of best friends, we would say Joe's best friends, Angelo, Jeremiah, and Christian, want to go see the new Beauty and the Beast movie. Okay? So we're placing emphasis on those specific friends wanting to go see that movie. Everything that could go wrong for Haley, from sleeping through her alarm to getting a bad grade on a test, did go wrong. So now we have to think about what are we trying to emphasize in this sentence. We know it's about Haley and how everything's going wrong. But we know back from the PowerPoint that dashes are also things that separate things out. And now we know from this it's separating things that we are placing a strong emphasis on. So we're wanting to emphasize all the things that went wrong with Haley. Okay? Everything that could go wrong for Haley went wrong. So everything that could go wrong for Haley, dash, from sleeping through her alarm to getting a bad grade on a test, dash, did go wrong. So in this, we are stressing, we're moving beyond everything that could go wrong for Haley did go wrong. Now we're giving specific examples, trying to display just how wrong everything went. Okay? Joey's brother, the one on the bowling team, broke his foot yesterday. So again, here we're trying to emphasize who Joey's brother is. Now, I don't know, but maybe let's say Joey's got 5 brothers. So if we just had Joey's brother broke his foot yesterday, well, which brother broke his foot? Okay? So now we're stressing the one on the bowling team broke his foot yesterday. And that tells us that maybe Joey's brother who's on the bowling team, maybe he broke his foot because he dropped a bowling ball on it. Who knows? But all we do know is that we want to emphasize exactly who we're talking about. The school behavior expectations, be safe, be respectful, and be responsible, are thought of very highly by Jaden. So I know we all know the school behavior expectations, and you guys know that we stress those things constantly. So because we want to emphasize that those are what they are, we're going to put them in dash. We're going to put dashes around it. Those are the things. What I like to imagine with a dash, and it's much funnier when I can do the whole acting out piece, is this is somebody just like hitting the board. Okay? This is somebody who's pointing very strongly, who's like, look right here. Look at this stuff. This is important. This is the important thing. Okay. Caden took a few steps back, came running full speed, kicked a great kick, and missed the ball. So we have where we see a comma, like Caden took a few steps back, came running full speed, kicked a great kick, and missed the ball. So here, even though it seems like we're emphasizing all of this, the thing that's really important is that he missed the ball. So we would actually put our dash right here, right between kick and, because we're just kind of like, it's almost like you're building us up. Like, oh my God, Caden took a few steps back. He comes running full speed. He looks magnificent. He's just an incredible athlete. And he kicks this great kick, but then he missed the ball. So oopsie daisy, right? Now this dash we only used once. So we didn't have two dashes, and that is okay. Just like a comma, a dash can be used once. Okay? So you can see both of these things just once, and that's totally acceptable. Okay? Now, is this going to let me? Nope. See, guys, I told you I was going to learn. I got to erase all this fun stuff. So if you need to review that, that's fine. You can rewind in the video. But I am going to move on to commas. All right. So commas. The commas are a little subtler. Okay, so dashes are huge emphasizers. Commas are a little more like a tiger weaving through the underbrush of the jungle. They can be very powerful, but they pause and wait and ready to pounce with more information. Something like the young boy, who had been secretly training at the gym for months, hoisted the massive weight above his head. Here, the information within the commas offers more information about the young boy and why he could lift the weights. So our first one was just like total surprise, because here's this boy with super thin arms and he's able to lift up this massive weight, and that's important for our dashes. But for our commas, now we're getting some extra info about why that boy is able to lift the weight above his head. We learn that the young boy, who's been secretly training at the gym for months, hoisted the massive weight above his head. So these ones aren't about, we're not trying to emphasize, we're not trying to hide anything, we're trying to give extra info. So the 5 dogs that live with Miss Lloyd's parents are named Livy, Sammy, Gabby, Annie, and Cassie. So this one's not extra info, but it is a list. So you guys, I bet, know where we put our commas. We're just going to put it after each name, because these are my parents' 5 dogs. And we need to make sure that they're separate, so that way you don't think that Livy, Sammy, Gabby, Annie is just one dog. Keontae doesn't like biology, nor does he like chemistry. So this kind of tells us that Keontae must not like science, because he doesn't like bio and he doesn't like chemistry. When I get older, I will be able to drive. I'm going to let you guys put the comma there, because we just kind of talked about that. Is it going to go inside the quotation mark, or is it going to go outside the quotation mark? And then I want you guys to try numbers 4 and 5 on your own. Okay, so figure out what the main sentence is all about, and then what's the information that we need to separate out. Okay, so like in number 3, when I get older, I'll be able to drive. What is the sentence really about? Because this needs 2 commas. So we need the quotation mark comma, which I'll let you guys place. But then what is this sentence all about? Is it about when she gets older, or is it about her being able to drive? All right. If you said it's all about her getting older, you would be wrong. It is all about her being able to drive. So what we need to do is separate this first piece, when I get older, from the I will be able to drive, because this tells us it's our extra info. So we put a comma there. You guys are going to do the same thing for 4 and 5. You might use 2 commas. You might use 1 comma. You just have to kind of look at it and see what information are you separating out. All right. Hopefully you guys aren't in the Google chat that I keep seeing my little thing popping up. So I'll be in there in a few minutes if you guys are in there. The last one is parentheses. Now I think parentheses are cool. To me, they're easy to remember because you always are going to have your 2. All right, so dashes and commas, it's always like, ooh, am I using 1? Am I using 2? Am I using 7? Ooh, I don't know. but with parentheses, you always know it's going to be 2. Okay? You can't have the open one without having the closing one. You have to have both. So, parentheses can also be powerful, but they are more like the bear walking peacefully through the forest. They can pack power for information, but they are generally quieter. While still offering more information, we could say the young boy, stronger than he looked, hoisted the massive weight above his head. Now we have 2 different uses here for our parentheses. Okay, we have this one where I like to think of the parentheses as a whisper. So guys know how you can put your hands up to your face. Obviously, we don't want to touch our face right now because we're focusing on super good hygiene. But when you whisper to someone, you usually you put both hands so that way you can whisper right in their ear, and you have where the way that you curve your hands looks like parentheses. So I always like to think of parentheses as being a whisper. Okay? It's information that it is important to have, and it's information that is powerful, but it's something that's quiet. It's just kind of something that gets slipped into the sentence. So like our dash really stresses like, hey, hold on one sec. Let me pause. Okay, sorry guys. I had to pause the recording because I had some questions coming up in the chat. Okay, so like I said, it's a whisper. So dashes are like, look at this info. All right, the boy who should not be able to lift stuff is lifting something. Boom, we want to emphasize that. The comma just gave us information. The young boy who was going to the gym a lot was able to do this. And now we have this one where it's like the young boy who's stronger than he looked hoisted the massive weight above his head. Okay, so it's just that it is still that extra info, and it is powerful info, but it's quiet information. It's a whisper. Okay? If we take it out, the sentence still makes sense, but having it in there really just kind of changes how the whole thing is presented. Now, we also use parentheses to do this. Okay? Now, what this is, and you might have seen it before, we haven't really talked about citations as much, but when you guys start writing your super duper fancy essays and you use information from other people, you put their last name in the parentheses. Okay? So you have where this, again, it's not like you're going to be using this specific thing every single day. You won't even use it in every single situation, but if you were writing an essay, you would put the parentheses around the person's last name, and you can see that it's in the sentence too, because here's our period right here. So like all these little snippets of information, if you actually scroll up to the top, it tells you about how I got these little these quotes from a University of Michigan database. Well, this was our writer. Okay, so I did not come up with these fun little animal metaphors. It was all animal metaphors, animal similes. It was all Schiller. Okay, so now if we look in this, in the following section of the exam, Raven circled the errors in each sentence. Now this one is a weird sentence. I gave you a weird one. I'm sorry. So in the following example, I think I might have forgotten to add a section. Oopsies. Yeah. Skip number 1. Miss Lloyd wasn't sure what she was thinking. And since I made this, it is kind of out of my brain. So we'll skip number 1. Number 2, Jaden likes going to Lloyd Memorial High School, LMHS, but she's ready to graduate. So what is the information that we can separate out from the sentence? Think about what we don't necessarily need to have in this. Okay? So if we look, we don't need to have the LMHS, right? So we are going to put the LMHS in parentheses. Now I know that's not powerful information, but if Jaden was writing an article about Lloyd High School, she could now refer to Lloyd as LMHS instead of having to spell out the whole thing. Samuel Taylor Coleridge, 1772, 1834, is one of Miss Lloyd's favorite poets. He's pretty funny. He's also really weird, but it's fine. So we have where, again, in this, what information is not super duper important? or at least not information that necessarily needs to be in the sentence, but at the same time, maybe it does give us a little more insight. That would be his years of birth and death, right? The metaphors from Michigan State University MSU Writing Center said there is no reason to be afraid of dashes, commas, and parentheses. Schiller. So this one actually has two different sets of parentheses that would need to go in. Okay, so I'm going to let you guys put the two parenthesis sets. So I'm going to skip that one. And some students, Christian, Haley, and Haley, are going to do some social distancing this weekend. So just like with number 4, I want you guys, this one has 2 sets of parentheses. This one only has 1 set of parentheses. Okay. Now, Mr. Dempsey and I did not send you guys a grammar quest. We decided we wanted you guys to focus on all sorts of other stuff. So you do not have to worry about this, and you don't have to worry about number 1 from the parentheses section. But I do want you to do number 4 and 5 in parentheses, and then I think you guys also had a few in the commas that you are going to just do on your own. Okie dokies. So if you guys have any questions, keep in mind that there are a few different ways to get a hold of us. Obviously, you can get us in the classroom. I know a few of you have been going through study skills. Some of you have also, haven't had a whole lot of you in the chat, but I have had 1 or 2 of you, which is pretty awesome. I also called most of you guys' parents, or I might have even talked to you, and you guys have a phone number that you could be using to reach me. And like I said, Mr. Dempsey and I are here for you guys every step of the way. I know we're not with you, and that makes it really difficult, but at the same time, we're all doing a super duper awesome job. I know that I'm super jazzed about you guys, and I know based off both Mr. Dempsey and I checking in on you all are doing pretty fantastic with your work. But if you need any help, please do not hesitate to reach out and let us know. All right? If you have any questions about this, that's totally, just let me know. Hopefully I didn't confuse you, and hopefully it all makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, that's okay. Again, just reach out. We're going to keep practicing with punctuation. It's just one of those things that we really want to make sure we know what's going on with. Okay. Now, I know you guys have a few other worksheets. I will post a separate video of those. I'm trying to keep this one under 30 minutes because I feel like I talk way too much. And I'm already almost at 30 minutes, so that just proves to me that I talk way too much. So I love you guys. I hope you're all doing super duper well. I miss you. Please do not hesitate to reach out. I would dash that all over the place that I am here for you. All right. I want to help you. Please, 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 please do not hesitate to reach out. Either through Google Classroom, the Google chat that I sent you guys a thing to, even just email. You can see I've got my email up. I have Google chat up. I don't have the classroom up, but I'm going to go to that next. All right. So I will have all 3 of those things up all the time. All right. Love you guys. Miss you guys. Stay super duper healthy. Make sure you're social distancing and, just, again, still relaxing and taking care of yourself. But, it doesn't hurt. It's okay to miss me too. Okay. Hopefully we'll be back in school soon, and I will get to see all your smiling faces, and we'll get to hang out and have good times. All right. Bye, guys. Miss Lloyd.